was that an advancement or it was cosmetic?
No, what Yar'Adua did was he was just being truthful. Don't forget that even the 1999 election between Olufalaye and Obasanjo popularly, was Nigerians questioned it. Because clearly in some sections of the country Olufalaye won, and then in some others Obasanjo won.
Right.
But the tragedy of the Nigerian state is that at every point where we have attempted to practice democracy, the political operators almost always emasculates the popular will of the people. And then it became worse in 2019, exactly 20 years into what we call a democratic protest. And that is why I would say that, first, I would rather call this process, or what we have today, civil rule. And then I pray, all hope is not lost. It was the sage Obafemi Awolowo who said that hope is the last milk in the human breast. And I have hope. I have faith that if Nigerians and our political operators want to move this country forward, we can begin first by acknowledging where we got it wrong. And Yar'Adua, like you noted, started that process of being true. All I expected was that President Muhammadu Buhari would have come out to say to Nigerians that I acknowledge the errors of the 2019 general polls. I acknowledge my mistakes in the polls. I acknowledge the failings and the shortcomings of INEC, and that I will sign the new electoral law into, because it is funny that we have two sides of the divide in this country. Don't forget that INEC budgeted about 2.8 billion naira for the electoral protocols of the last election. They said they were going to have servers, they were going to have several electronic networks and protocol. And then what happened at the end of the day? The same INEC boldly came before the courts of law to tell us that they did not use these facilities. And rather than Nigerians questioning what happened, the APC people are clapping and dancing. Nobody's asking what happened to our 2.8 billion naira. The PDP people are saying, oh, we were rigged out. So I think that what is sizably important is for how governance affects the people to be the common bottom of our discourse. We cannot just overlook them. We cannot overlook the issues and then claim to be practicing democracy.
When you say how governance affects the people, if you look from 1999 till date, will you say that the representation of people going by what you've seen shows some sort of advancement or that we are headed somewhere? I think it's pretty broad this way, right? Maybe we start first and foremost with women, and then we go to the youth. So with women, if you look at how women participate in politics from 1999 till date, at the different levels of government, whether it's at the assembly, state or federal, or at the executive, at local, state or federal, what's your impression? Advancement, or we're not moving anywhere right now?
This might make you laugh, and then I know that quite a lot of listeners will wonder, because I do not by any means look like a feminist, but I am. I think that, unfortunately, instead of moving forward in terms of women engagement and participation in governance, the past 5 years have been a tragedy. Instead of, when President Obasanjo came in 1999, there were quite more engagement of women in governance. You saw the Dora Akunyili's of this world, the Konja Iwealas of this world. Quite a lot of, they had more females at the federal cabinet. But sadly, I do not know why Buhari has stopped it against due process and global acceptation. To you have the affirmative action. You know that all over the world, people are beginning to engage women because, thankfully to the Almighty God, I call them womb men. They are able to multitask much more than men, and that's the truth. No matter how querulous, if our fathers were in the position of our mothers, perhaps we will all be gangsters today. Our mothers were able to nurse many of us, take care of the family, stabilize the family, And remember how Dorian Kunyeli fared in governance. Remember how Konjo-Iweala fared in governance. Remember quite a lot of them, and Aruma Ote and co.
Right.
And then you wonder why the APC government has decided to take us backward in terms of the involvement and engagement of women. That's point number one. Then regarding that also, look at Rwanda today.
Right.
Rwanda is sizably the bastion of African growth in terms of democratic engagement and infrastructural growth.
Right.
In Rwanda today, you have more female lawmakers. You have more female ministers, if you like. And that is because the government of Rwanda understands the ability of women to multitask and do a whole lot of things at the same time. Unfortunately, we have a machoistic and a patriarchal government that does not care about the input of our women. And then, on the other side, which is quite funny, instead of our women engaging in critical analysis of the appointing protocols of this government, you see quite a lot of them hailing and applauding what is happening today. And I ask myself, how did we get to this tragic low? What happened to us? Have we truly become a people like no other? Because the world is moving forward and engaging more women. Look at the European Parliament, look at the House of Lords, look at the House of Commons, look at Ghana here, look at Benin Republic here. But instead of moving along with a highly progressive world, we're on the reverse gear. It's almost like 2 steps forward, 5 steps backward. Then with respect to youth engagement.
Exactly, because
if I can
get to youth engagement. I mean, if the women haven't had a fair deal, the youths had a bill passed, was it last year, became a law, but not too young to run. You've been a young person and have tried to get into government from 1999 till date at different levels, either for president or at the parliament. So what's your impression? Any advancement, or we still have a long way to go?
With all sense of respect, I want to say again that our young people have decided to do quite a lot of things themselves. But regarding government engagement, it was better under the PDP. This is not hailing any party. Because under Obasanjo, we had much more younger ministers. Under Yadwa, we had much more younger ministers. The average age of the present cabinet is about 56 years old. At some point, we had 51 under Jonathan. I want to say, and I say this without fear of querulous critics, that when people refer to me, all bearded, white hair, as a young man, at 48, it just tells how bad it has become. Because at 40 in 2011, I ran for the office of president in this country. And that was when the agitation for youth, not too young to run, began. And then individually, young people, interestingly, in the last election, we had about 19 candidates who were between the ages of 51 and 40. And when I did that in 2011, I was the youngest then to have run for the office of president. I did that because I wanted to challenge the young. If you're not recognized, we can push for it ourselves. Of course, after that election, I understood what Chief Gani Fawehinmi had said, that no matter how well-intentioned you are in seeking political office, if you do not belong to the cabal that decides who gets what in Nigeria, you're almost certain not to get anywhere. But I think that we can change it. Right. And I remember also in that same line, it was the late Aminu Kano who said that Nigeria would not truly know progress and peace until the son of a nobody becomes somebody in this country. I hope that those who superintend over this country understand the reality and the urgency of now. Like I said of women, the young people, I remember when don't laugh this time, I have a graduate daughter, and some will say, when did he start? But I have a graduate daughter, and when I went for her convocation about 4 years ago, we met with erudite, permit me is my use of the word, vice president, who in the course of discussion, I said to him that this young generation is the know-all generation. And they wonder why I say that. I did not know that this young generation was so vast until one day my daughter looked at me and said, Daddy, ask me any question and give me 2 minutes. I'll give you an answer. And I said to her, my friend, go and sit down. What do you people know? And he said, just ask me and give me 2 minutes. And then I asked her, what year did Abraham Lincoln sign the Emancipation Proclamation?
That was easy.
And she looked at me and laughed. In less than 2 minutes, she told me, and I said, oh. She asked me another one. And I said, what year exactly, what year and date was the first shot fired in the Nigerian Civil War? She laughed. In less than 2 minutes, she gave me the answer. And I looked at her and I said, Grace, I don't know you to be this intelligent. I know that I'm more intelligent than you are. She laughed and said to me, Daddy, we know everything because we have Aghogho with us. And that was the day my understanding of the wealth and the depth of Aghogho became, and I became Aghogho's best friend. That's what my daughter calls me today. What am I trying to say?
Oh, boy.
We have a lot of young people in this country who can grapple with the challenges of nationhood. But this leadership, even from the state level, do not consider them. And when people talk about young boys being involved in Yahoo, and young girls in prostitution, right, I ask myself, what have government, in the last piece I wrote, I quoted my mentor, Martin Luther King Jr., when he said that it would be cruel joke and jest for you to ask a man to pull himself up with his bootstraps when he has no boots. We make demands of the young people of this country. You remember our dear president went to London or somewhere and said that our young people are very lazy. And then my late father would say that they were custodians of a generation that was over-pampered. That everything they wanted, government gave. My father told me about how when they were leaving the university, they had jobs ready. How when they were in the university, they were two to a room. Nigeria should look at the youth with some deep sense of compassion, deep sense of love, and deep sense of appreciation of what these young people are going through. We must open the door to engage our young people politically, train them in terms of skill acquisition, and Nigeria must apologize to the young people for neglecting them. I said this advisedly. Instead of calling them names, we must create deep protocols that will, in terms of governmental training, in terms of skill acquisition, in terms of appointments. And I say this seriously. This government has failed in that. I said to you, Aghogho, there is nobody in the present cabinet that is younger than I am. Everybody in Buhari's cabinet is older than I am. Everyone. And you ask yourself, when Buhari was in power in 1983, 84, he said to Nigerians in his address that the future, these young people are the leaders of tomorrow. And the young boys and young girls on social media are saying, when will that tomorrow come?
I'm going to put you on the pause here, Chris Nwokobia, and we'll talk about when will that tomorrow come, especially with the conversation happening offline and also online, very importantly, how that has helped shape our democratic project. We're speaking with Chris Nwokobia, legal practitioner as well as founder Country First Movement. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hard Facts will be right back.
This is Hard Facts.
All right, welcome back. It's 28 minutes past 5. I'm Aghogho Oboh. This is 99.3 Nigeria, in for your number one news talk and sports station. Chris Nwokobia is still with us. I see a lot of comments and engagement on social media already. You can send me messages on WhatsApp also too. We're streaming this live on Facebook. On WhatsApp, our number is 0809 597 5805. Again, 0809 597 5805. Chris Nwokobia.
Yeah.
Great. Always great to have the discussion with Chris Nwokobia. Chris Nwokobia has been, like they say, in the trenches of the democratic struggle for several years and still continues to play an active role. Discussion and dialogue continues online with the youths, and people have said that's a sign to show things are a lot different from during the days of jackboots and Berry, where it was almost impossible to say anything about democratic experience without facing possibility of being thrown behind jail. The days are different now, and but yet I still see and I also hear a lot of complaints, people saying they're being excluded. Are you satisfied with the conversation you hear, for example, online with youth with respect to issues that govern them, not only with what is happening in Abuja, but what is going on in Alausa or in Owerri or in the different areas they live in?
Let me say this, that oftentimes when we assess what happened under the military, or when we juxtapose it with what happens today, people are unable to dispassionately come straight to truth. Some people were arrested under the military, detained, some died. However, tragically, the same sad tale continues under this democracy. I'll give you a practical instance. I was detained for months under Obasanjo as a democratic ruler. I was held for months in the worst detention facility in this country until late Chief Gani Fahimi threatened to go to court. That was how, for those who do not understand, it was through that period of detention that Mustafa became part of my name. It was not for political jobbing whatsoever. Now, and the reasons are known to the world. You can go online and see why my name is Chris Mustafa Nwokobia Jr. But that's by the way. As you and I talk, Showra is in detention, still in detention. Right. As you and I talk, there's several other persons who are in detention against court order. That's akin to what happened under the military. And then don't forget that even under Jonathan, certain media houses were raided and their newspapers confiscated. Although they were paid back, they were indemnified. But what am I trying to say? I'm not saying that it's all bad news. The truth is that we can do better. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I would rather go back to the jackboots. I am saying that if we want democracy, quad democracy, then we can deepen the engagement of our people with governance and leadership. And why am I saying that? We have a tier of government.
To this point on this tier of government, but I want you to hit the nail on the head, like they say, with this thing, which is a great point you've raised about the detentions. Interestingly, I'm just thinking about it. Have happened from one administration, civilian, to the next, and it keeps going on. And some people have said that there is some unfortunate trait, which is not being able to take criticism that creeps into governance at a different level. So what that it is, some say it's a hangover of the military days where power was absolute and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Why people cannot be criticized? But what's the problem?
No, I think that the tragedy of leadership in this part of the world is that our leaders, quote and unquote, enjoy court jesting, praise singers, cheerleaders, and those who hail them too much, that critical voices are seen as enemies. Even as bad, I was one of those who criticized Jonathan heavily, but I wasn't called a hater. I wasn't called a wailer. Jonathan was much more forgiving, and he had a sense of forbearing, he had a sense of long suffering, he had a sense of And that doesn't make him my hero either, because I think that when you're entrusted with leadership, the onus is on you to serve the people. He failed to that respect. But it is worse now, where we have a government that prides in integrity, when in actual fact, if you meet a 6-year-old child, or a 7-year-old boy, you ask them what integrity means today. Because of how those who support this government mount integrity, they'll give you the opposite definition of the word integrity. You have people who define integrity in the breach. You have people who, when they say that government is fighting corruption, you ask yourself, where's the corruption that they're fighting? When even as corrupt as the PDP was, you did not see in the appointing protocols, the ministerial list, and those who were made ministers, people who were still standing trial for clear case of corruption and official misappropriation of resources. But here, like I said, we're moving 2 steps forward, 5 or 10 steps backwards. You mount integrity when, in practical terms, is the opposite. You mount anti-corruption when, in practical terms, is the opposite. And my worry, like I will always say, it's not all bad news. But my worry is that those who care about this country and about our children must begin to speak up and speak out. I am interested in how a child who's growing up today truly defines words and defines them correctly. I know that when we're growing up, when you talk about integrity, you're talking about a man who does not steal, a man who does not lie, a man who does not pretend against what is obvious. And then today, those who mount integrity do so in so many ways, they do the opposite. And that's why when we discuss our country and we'll talk about governance, we have to proactively address fundamental issues. And which is one, that in a democracy, you must allow the people to speak up and speak out. No matter how much your court jesters have told you that you're Plato's man of gold, you're a man who doesn't make mistakes, no matter how much people have told you that you're God on planet Earth, you have to be able to learn, to listen to people and accept criticism. But unfortunately, those who are around our dear President Muhammad Buhari have made it worse for him to accept when he's wrong. They even paint, my usual parlance, people who defend the indefensible. That's what you have everywhere.
Tell me something, Chris Owokobia. This arm of government, a lot of people had, the critics of the way it performed from 1999 till date was the fact that you had other arms of government in existence throughout the military era, which is the executive and the judiciary, but we did not have the legislative arm. So all of the shortcomings we're supposed to manage, and then they would learn along the way. 2019, they've been there 20 years. This is the ninth National Assembly we have now, and also state assemblies for at least for all the states also to have their own state assemblies. 9th edition. What are your perspectives?
No, clearly, Aghogho, if so that the listeners will understand where I'm coming from. And I'll say this without fear of querulous critics. I am not a card-carrying member of the PDP. I am no longer a member of the APC. Nigeria is my patrimony, our collective patrimony. Nigeria is my heritage. I am the convener of Country First Movement. That's for the purposes of this discussion.
Right.
I want to say clearly that from the local government to the federal government, the operators on our democratic space are at best egocentric. I remember once that I had to go to the EFCC to represent one local government chairman, who, when I got there, he told me in no uncertain terms that the money that was allocated for the building of a town hall, let me say it in the language he used. Prof, the money not there again. No. We don't share the money, but I don't tell them, say, na bad terrain, chop the money. What am I trying to say? they proudly tell you that monies that is meant for development has been spent. They share the money. At some point in this country, when you say PDP, they say share the money. PDP scatter the canopy. As you and I talk today, for the APC, acronyms are so wonderful. APC presently stands for All Promises Cancelled, if you like. And then the new one we see today is Affidavit Pass Certificate. You have all kinds of acronyms that defines what we're exactly confronted with. We live in a country where the operators of our democracy are at best egocentric, self-centered, and nobody cares about our country. But I do sincerely think that we can collectively, and that's why I'm happy that the media, that you're doing what you're doing, we can collectively ask the leaders to be true to what they say on paper. If you swore to an oath to serve the people and deliver on your promises, why not do so? There is something for the Christians. There's somewhere I read that a good name is better than silver and gold. For the Muslims, I read the Holy Prophet, peace be unto him, ask the people to do good. So when you serve the people diligently, a special position is reserved for you in our Jannah. But unfortunately, those who steal and loot are Christians and Muslims, sizably. And you ask yourself, where are they going to? So I think that the time has come for those who operate on our political amphitheater to begin to think about the reason they ever set out to govern. From the local government level, people should learn to think about the place called legacy. At the state level, they should think about the city called legacy. At the federal level, they should think about that beautiful place called legacy. Because whether we like it or not, power is transient. Look at recently, just a few days ago, it was the passing of Mugabe.
Right.
Who once was a great Africanist, who once was a great comrade, who once fought for the independence of his people. But forgetting that power is transient, he lost it somewhere. And my good friend Sam Amadi would say that with all, he lost it when it mattered most. Because what we should be thinking about in leadership is to leave a legacy and grow people who will take over from us. Is it not a shame that close to 5 decades after the First Republic, we're still talking about the great Nnamdi Azikiwe? We're still talking about Awolowo. We're still talking about Aghogho Delabu. We're still talking about those who fought for independence. And we do not have modern heroes who we can actually say
it's an irony when we say
it's an irony of sorts.
When we say civil society, we're looking at people like Serap or Femi Falana. Whereas in the real sense of it, civil society is everyone. It's you and I. Is the man on the street. That's
Aghogho, let me even say this because thank God you understand where I'm coming from. Now, it's a sad trajectory that men in their 70s and 80s tell you that they are Ois. It's a sad trajectory that men in their 70s and 80s tell you that they are Zikis. And then my late father would say that when you even look through the records, their best results were mediocre. So when will Nigeria grow heroes who posterity would say that they gave their all and their best? People in the mold of Julius Mwalimu Nyerere of Tanzania, people in the mold of Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, people in the mold of my mentor, Nelson Rolich Lala, Madiba Mandela, people who will, hundreds of years from now, leave strong mementos in the sands of time. And I think that's what leadership in Nigeria needs a whole lot of teaching, a whole lot of
I'm going to put you on a pause now. And I'm going to let the callers join the conversation because this International Day of Democracy is themed around participation. So I'm sure you'd also want to get the feedback and hear and feel the vibes.
I totally agree with you.
The people. If you don't have our numbers, 012770993 01277 1993, 01277 2993, and then 01277 3993. I see all the numbers blinking already. On WhatsApp, if you're not fortunate enough to join the conversation via telephone, our WhatsApp number is 0809 0809 597 5805. Again, 0809 597 5805. So, who do we have first to the block? Hello.
Hello.
All right. Good evening.
Good evening.
Please, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Patrick is calling from Alberta.
All right, Patrick. Please quickly go ahead.
Yeah. I've listened to your guest on the studio, Chris Nwokobia. I think he has spoken a lot. He has somebody I really appreciate his contribution towards the political scene in Nigeria. Really, what he has said on the outline he has given, I think the politicians have failed us in this country. When APC took over from PDP, Buhari being the person we have experienced before as the military head of state in 1983, we thought when he took over from PDP, he was going to change the shape of the country. Unfortunately, this is not what we are seeing on the ground right now. Buhari has brought a leadership that has brought untold hardship on the country. So people like Chris Nwokobia, I want to urge them to come out so we can see how to do away with this old breed. Like he said, all the ministerial appointments, nobody of his age or is younger than his age that is the ministerial list. So how are we going to address the issue of the youth of tomorrow? So I totally agree with his contribution this afternoon. So thank you very much.
All right.
That's my contribution.
Thank you very much for your contribution. All right. Hello, is that Vincent over there?
Yeah.
All right, Vincent. Brilliant. How is Papa today?
My brother, thank God. Your guest there was more than on point, but
he's still online, so he's listening to you.
You see, it's a shame. It's a shame in this 21st century for Nigeria to still be dilly-dallying on mere electoral matters. So and that is the key point here, when you say integrity. Somebody like me would have thought otherwise, that Mr. President would have given Nigeria a gift of solidifying our democracy. Being it in the situation that he vied about threats and got it right in the fourth time, but he blew up the ball. He just gave an own goal. So anything he's doing now about this democracy, that's building, solidifying our democracy, is just over the bar. It is a whole pity. Pity. Not to build the electoral act, solidify the whole system, and pass it as a gift that you are giving the next generation following you. It is a whole shame to Nigeria.
All right. Thank you very much, Vincent, for your comments. Let's hear Dayo from Ikeja. Hello, Dayo.
Hello, Aghogho. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chris.
All right, he's somewhere there, but he's listening. Please go ahead.
Okay. I will rightly agree with him that the past leaders have failed the youth of this nation, and they owe us an apology. But be that as it may, I'm one that will continue to say that sometimes you don't sit down, fold your hands, and ask for freedom. You work and demand for it. You come out, you fight for it if need be, not shedding blood, but fighting for it, coming out of our shells. So I'll say to the youth today, we should get involved, and more so, Aghogho.
Yeah, I'm listening.
One of the things we need to change in this society is the money mindset. You see, Mr. Chris said he ran for president in 2011, if I'm correct.
Right.
If you can recall, what were the things the youths were asking him for before they can give him his vote? Were they asking him for what he's going to do for them and their children unborn? Or were they asking him for what they're going to get from him immediately? And so the youth, even in our quest of coming out and wanting to change things, we need to begin to put the nation first. We need to begin to put Nigeria first and understand that this is a nation we have. Look at today, they are chasing us out of South Africa. They're going to be chasing us out of so many countries. But where are we going to come to? Nigeria. So what's going to happen? We need to begin to make things work and do what is right. And ask the right questions.
All right. Thank you very much. Dio, for your comment. I see that Peter is on standby. Hello, Peter.
Good evening.
Good evening, Peter. How is Ikorodu today?
Yes, fine, thank you.
Good.
The fact remains that your guest spoke about engaging our representatives. You can only engage the people that represent you. That is people you voted in. What you have now is selection, is not democracy. I think we should go to the basis. That is the fundamental issue of selecting our representatives. The democracy. How it's going to be straightened. How people will not be killed in the process of selecting a leader. How the credible candidate will be wishfully and willingly elected to represent us. Here, they are not representatives. They don't want nothing. They don't want no apology. If they want to do a town hall meeting, they will select people that will talk there. And they will say, hey, he has done the wrong. Hey, he has done this. So that is what they are doing. They are not representatives. There is intimidation. There is, you know what happened in the last election. It's the worst election ever. In a country where a bandit, a kidnapper, is giving amnesty. Who is fighting for no just cause? He's not fighting for economic freedom. He's not fighting for democracy. He's not fighting for any political something. He's fighting for his pocket. He's killing people. And he said they are repentant. So you can imagine. Repentant criminal. Repentant bandit. Repentant armsmen. They are saying that they are food security. They say rice is Nigerian rice. Where is the Nigerian rice? Where is it? Let them feed the market with the Nigerian rice. And then let's see that Nigerian rice is 6,000 naira, whether people will not buy it. How many people that have money, 14, 15, 20, 2,000 naira to buy a bag of rice?
All right, Peter. Thank you very much.
We are just deceiving ourselves. God, I know one day, posterity will judge those who are ruling us now.
All right,
either good or bad they are doing to us, posterity will judge them.
All right, Peter. Thank you for your comments. I was impassioned in his comments, Peter. Ike from Bariga says he has a question for Chris Nwokobia. Ike. Hello, Ike.
Yeah.
Great. You're on to 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Yeah, my name is Ike. I'm calling from Bariga.
Okay, please go ahead.
I want to ask Chris Nwokobia a question. Is he still APC member or not? Because I know in 2015, I know the way he campaigned for Muhammad Buhari, our own president. So I don't know, because he come out in the national television and tell us that he is the messiah of this country. So I don't know why he's not turning back from him. So is it that they did not give him appointment or what? Okay. So let him answer us.
Okay. Hello. Okay, we've got a question. Okay. Yeah, Chris, please go ahead.
It'd be nice to... His name is Ike, is it?
Yeah, Ike, yes.
Ike, interestingly, like so many other people who are passionate about our country, I was one of those who clearly, like you noted, supported the candidacy of Muhammad Buhari in 2014, 2015. And I headed one of the agencies of his campaign. I was DG Change Ambassadors of Nigeria. And I did that for 3 clear reasons. And I know that if you listen carefully, you will understand. The first reason was that the essence of my drive since I was 18 was to ensure that our country moves better and works and fights corruption and makes life better for the masses of our people. The second one was accountability in leadership and governance. And the third one was for more young and youth participation in governance. And I believed that at that point, Jonathan wasn't doing well enough. So we wanted something new, something different. Unfortunately, like the great Abraham Lincoln would say, that if men were God, several men will have knives on their neck walking the streets. But thank God that men are not God. But I remember, and I say this clearly, that as early as September 2015, I was the first person who wrote an open letter to the president when they increased fuel price from 97 naira to 145. And I wrote to him that this is not the promise you made to the Nigerian people. It was an open letter. If you go on Google, you'll still see it.
Right.
Now, just after that, there was another, don't forget that 30 days after he moved into Asura, precisely on the 28th of August, 2015, after his first set of appointments.
Right.
And I said to him, Mr. President, every section of this country has credible and competent hands. You do not skew appointments to the north. Carry the country as your collective patrimony. So if you're just finding out that I'm critical of the government of Muhammadu Buhari, then you're coming out late to acknowledge the fact that I've been critical of this government since 2015. The reason I supported President Muhammadu Buhari was for change. The change that would canvass then.
Right.
And when it became obvious that he wasn't in tandem with that reality, I stood up and I led the first set of civil society advocates who began to criticize him. And the reason is not because I hate him. Remember that when I wrote the first letter to him, no minister had been appointed. So it wasn't like I decided to criticize him because I was not appointed. That is for those who care to listen and understand the truth to know. It has always been about country first for me, and I hope that you'll be able to understand that.
All right,
and that is why, like I criticized Jonathan in 2014, 2015, I am one of the leading lights criticizing and fighting the present order.
Right.
And we will continue to do that until we get responsible and responsive governance in this country.
All right, which means that Chris Wokobi has ended up criticizing every single government from 1999 till date.
No, since I was 18, Aghogho.
Okay. Well, which makes him the perfect guest because he's not tied to any of the previous government. But we've got some message on WhatsApp, and those of you who are calling, you'll get the opportunity to talk on I Beg to Differ. I understand the gladiators are going to debate on whether we've moved forward as a democratic nation or not from 1999 till date. Once that comes on, let's Aghogho from on WhatsApp says, kindly ask Dr. Wokobi if the PDP was rigged out of the last presidential poll. On PMB's cabinet, Keyamo is 49. Can Dr. Chris tell us how old he is now? Well, he says he's 48 years old now. That's Tajuddin from Ifako. Akpe Friday Onoja says, thank you for listening to Nigeria Info. Thank you too. Mr. Wokobi has said... Can
I quickly say that even the person who asked that question knows that the 2019 election was not free and fair.
Okay,
even the devil knows. Like my great mentor, Mahatma Gandhi, would say that even the devil has a conscience. That when you meet him at that point where his conscience pricks him, he will tell you that he's been busy deceiving people.
All right, Chris, we're pressed for time now, so I'll just quickly take in some other messages very quickly. Annie from Ota says it's unimaginable that in 21st century Nigeria still lacks basic infrastructure, which is a basis for economic development. We are being left behind by smaller African countries. Let's see. Kayode from Ikotun says that since we have now seen our folly, the present leaders cunningly taking over are not all the same. Blames the youths for their errors. Nigerians are loyal to wrong people, even though they know sometimes the people they celebrate are people that have done nothing to offer them. No idea, no innovation, no leadership skills. Olaide Cruz. And the messages keep coming on and on. Chris Nwokobia is a guru. Comparable analysis. A lot of people think they have political ambitions for you, Chris Nwokobia. But that's how much we have time for. Thank you very much, Chris Nwokobia.
Let me say this as a parting shot, that I believe that if we collectively and together work for the new Nigeria of our dreams, we can have one. It is not so much about agonizing. We have to organize and put our efforts together as young people to ensure that we have a new republic on our hands. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Chris Iwokobia, convener, Country First Movement, as well as a legal practitioner. This International Day of Democracy has been a great discussion, and we will continue with this topic on I Beg to Differ. So all messages are left out on WhatsApp. I'll get back to it. Please keep listening. I'm Aghogho Oboh. We'll be right back after the news.
More talk, news, and sports after this.